Hey folks, what's going on? Just want to give you guys a little peek at my spice garden. It's like the first week of June, close to the end of the first week of June. And this is soft neck garlic. I plant this right at before winter comes in. So at the end of fall, when it's like the first frost, before the ground's solid, I'll drop in a bunch of different cloves of garlic. And then in the spring, it'll pop up. It'll overwinter, and then it will pop up and start growing. The difference between the hard neck and the soft neck, I've talked about this in previous videos, but if you crack open a clove of garlic, it's got a hard core, it's hard neck. But when you're growing it, it has a scape that comes out, where soft neck doesn't have a scape. It just sends another leaf out. When I say leaf, it's more like a blade of grass, right? So in the center portion here, it'll just stack out these blades, and it'll get 4 or 5 feet tall, right? And then when it falls over and dies, that's when it's close. You don't want it to rot in the ground, so that's the harvesting time. Whereas the hardneck garlic, during the center portion, it will send out this round thing that looks like the start of an asparagus. I'm sorry, not an asparagus, but a zucchini blossom, like how they start out. And then it just goes pointy, and it definitely is an awesome treat. It's edible. Then I also have in here a bunch of dill. I had planted a couple dill, and I harvested what I want, then I let it go to seed. This stuff is very fragile. It's not like firm like fennel is, but anyways, I let it go to seed, and now I've got a bunch of volunteer dill growing through here, which is pretty awesome. We use it for making like pickles and just ice creams and stuff like that, believe it or not. Dill is pretty amazing. Anyways, we've got some basil, however you want to call it. This is all from seed from my plants last year. And I did get another set of seeds because I like to try different varieties of it. And I should have grown some Thai basil, but I didn't this year. I will next year. Anyways, here's a bunch of chive, and you see they've gone to blossom. And you can still get in there and get some nice small ones for, my eggs that I like to eat. But after it's done flowering, you can go in and cut it back, and it will send up new shoots. It's pretty awesome. This stuff's getting pretty thick and needs to get divided out, where I'll pull some clumps out of it and plant it somewhere else. And all this started as one. These are all divisions where I've taken clumps and replanted them. So if you guys live in the Kansas City area and you need some shallot divisions, I can hook you up. These are scallions, believe it or not, but they're gigantic, and they're in flower right now. And these little things will drop on the ground, and that's how it propagates. In a year, sometimes 2, depending on the variety of onion, it will send up new babies, right? Anyways, I'm having these maple trees. I've got some big maple trees, sugar maples behind me, and they dropped all their little helicopters, their seeds, and they're growing everywhere right now. Anyways, there's more basil, and then I've got some volunteer dill. All this dill is volunteer from the ones I planted last year. So dill's a perennial. All right, more basil, and this is the new variety. You can see that these leaves are a lot smaller than these leaves, and they're a different kind of leaf. See, they're more rounded, and these are more pointed. It's still basil, but it's a different type for sure. You see how these edges are straight, and these edges have these little serrations. So it's a different type of basil. And what will happen is they'll pollinate and cross, and I'll get a cross between the two if I save seeds, which I always do. Here's my mint. I've got 4 or 5 different types of mint. If you want mint, it will just take over, guys. You plant it, and it just sends up runners the next year, and it just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And sometimes you get these stuff that hides in it, these little flowers, and I've got to weed them out. But mint is amazing. You can take fresh mint and put it in some vodka and make awesome drinks out of it. But you can also use that as a mint extract for making ice creams and mint chocolate chip ice cream. You can make whatever you want, but it extracts color as well as the flavor. And you can just keep adding new mint to your vodka, and it will dissolve the oils, and you'll get this amazing super concentrate mint oil or mint extract. good for all kinds of stuff. You just evaporate away the alcohol and you're left with this pure mint flavor, and it's amazing. Okay, this is the first for me. I haven't never played with lavender, so I started with some seeds, and I got those seeds at the 99-cent store. Believe it or not, they have seeds there at the dollar store. And I just got them because I wanted to see what happened, and it grew fine. Thyme. I'm kind of like a thyme snob. I love thyme. And believe it or not, thyme is a perennial. And I have bought thyme from Bonnie, but I've started with seed on some other things. But the cool thing with thyme is you can divide it out. You can tell when thyme's really young, right? Because the stems are green and they're very flexible. As thyme gets older, you see it gets real woody, right? And it has new growth coming off that wood, but you can see it's like a bush, right? That's thyme. So if you just cover this over with mulch for the winter, it'll come back. And that's what this is. This is lemon thyme. Now I've got golden thyme, English thyme, French thyme, but basically it'll send out these branches like this. And if you leave them sitting to the ground, this will actually root off. So if you cut it behind here and dig the roots up, you can replant it by division. This was a division plant. That little guy's a division. That's a division. And you can just keep growing your thyme area. Thyme's expensive. If you buy, $2.50 a little package of thyme at Walmart, and it gives you less than that amount. And, your meals can get expensive. Or you can walk out in your garden and grab your own thyme. You plant it once. Make sure if it's not getting watered, give it a little bit of water. But keep mulch around so your ground doesn't dry out. And then you can just grow your thyme over years, and you'll have plenty of time for thyme. All right, now we have some flat leaf parsley back there. I had a lot more. I cut a bunch down, but if you harvest it, it will come back. If you don't kill it all, don't pull it down to the root, it will come back. So you can harvest what you need off the top, kind of top it off, and it will continue to grow. It's pretty amazing. There's some more thyme there, and more thyme there, and little bitty thyme there. Over here, I saw this listed as in somebody's greenhouse as the licorice plant. Yeah, right. It tastes like licorice, but that licorice flavor is called Anise, or Anise flavor. And this is called tarragon. You can make compound butters with this stuff, and you can use it for lots of different things. Bouquet garni, which is like a satchel of herbs that you put in stocks and things like that. But you can divide this stuff as well. And this is what I've done here. I've turned this one into 3 little plants, right? And by the end of the season, it will be beautiful. And this is a perennial as well. It doesn't need good soil. Cover it over with mulch, and it will pop out again in spring. And I've got some rosemary. I've got several pieces of rosemary around the place. I love rosemary. And I use a lot when I cook meat and steaks and things like that. But it will send up a main shoot like this. Okay, and then we'll start sending off these little guys off to the side, and you end up with things like this, right? So I've got 4 or 5 of these around the property. And oregano. Now, marjoram and oregano are very similar. This is marjoram, and this is oregano. You can see the oregano sends out these tall, they start off like a little bushy guy, and then they start sending off these tall runners. You see that? I call them runners, stems, stalks, whatever. And this is Italian oregano, and this is marjoram. It tastes a lot the same, and it's very similar looking. But marjoram is a perennial. It'll come back. I love perennials because of the fact that once you plant it once and you paid for it, it will come back. Sage. I have got sage. This is one of those ones that you can divide out again. You can see that, like, this guy's got these little ones on the sides. If you're real careful, lift those up, you can root those, pull those little stems off, stick them in some rainwater or water that's had the chlorine removed by letting it sit out, and refresh it every few days with clean water, and it will root, and you can plant it. And that's what I've done here. I've taken, this is the mother plant, and then planted this one and that one off of it, and I'll steal pieces to start over with. I'll grow it in the wintertime in the house, and I'll start over again. I haven't had a chance. I haven't had this come back for me. Sage doesn't seem to be a perennial. Sometimes it just isn't for your zone. We're in zone 5A out here in Excelsior. Up here we have coriander. You guys probably know it as cilantro. And it looks a little different than what, does that look like cilantro to you? It's bolting, all right? It sends up this big shoot. You can see right here, there's like this big stem, right? And the lower portions are like the cilantro that you know, and you can go in and grab those leaves off these lower portions, and it's just like any cilantro you buy in the store. These little guys are tender, right? These little leaves like this, but then it starts to flower, okay? And the coriander plant has a lot to offer that most people don't know, well, at least unless you cook a lot, especially Indian food or Thai food or anything like that. The root is a fantastic spice. You can use it with a microplane, fresh, or you can dry it out and grind it up for spice. These stems, they have a lot of flavor too. You can use those for your dishes, especially if you're going to be processing it up into pastes of any kind. And then the seeds are amazing. You know, the coriander seeds, you toast them and break them up and grind them in a food processor. They have a great flavor. But what's even more amazing than that is when the seeds are green, they're soft and they'll pop and they have amazing flavor. But before you can get to the seed phase, you're going to go from this little bolting leaves like this to these little flowers, and then they'll open up, then they'll get pollinated, and then they'll start growing seed. And that's what we're doing. We're growing this mainly for seed and root and stem. All right, so this is my little herb garden. Oh, next year we'll have some shallots. Shallots, they're kind of cool, right? See, there's a shallot. And if you just bury them off, they will, you don't put them grow, you half bury them. They'll start to root out and they'll send up a bunch of shallots and clusters around the main one that you planted. I've already harvested quite a few of my shallots for the year. But next year we're going to do that again and get a bunch more shallots. All right, guys. That's my spice garden. Y'all take care now.